The question on everyone's mind is America's era of dominance coming to an end? For over 7 decades, the United States has stood as the world's unrivaled superpower. But today, headlines speak of rising challengers, economic shifts, and a changing global order. So what's the truth? Is the USA losing its superpower status, or is this just another chapter in the ongoing story of global power dynamics? Today, we're going to examine this question from multiple angles: military strength, economic power, technological leadership, and soft power influence. Let's dive in. First, we need to understand what makes a superpower. It's not just about having the biggest military or the largest economy. True superpower status rests on several pillars. Military dominance is the most obvious one, the ability to project force anywhere in the world, to protect allies and to deter adversaries. Economic strength comes next, the capacity to shape global trade, control reserve currencies, and weather financial storms. Then there's technological innovation, leading in the industries that define the future. And finally, soft power, the ability to influence through culture, values, and diplomacy rather than coercion. The United States has historically excelled in all four areas, but each pillar now faces significant challenges. Let's start with military might. Here, the picture is complex. The U.S. defense budget remains larger than the next 10 countries combined. America operates approximately 750 military bases in over 80 countries. No other nation comes close to this global reach. However, quantity doesn't always equal superiority. China has been rapidly modernizing its military, developing advanced hypersonic missiles, expanding its navy to become the world's largest by ship count, and building capabilities specifically designed to counter American strengths. Russia, despite economic limitations, maintains a formidable nuclear arsenal and has demonstrated its willingness to use military force in its sphere of influence. The real question isn't whether America can win any single conflict, but whether it can simultaneously manage multiple global commitments. Overstretched resources, aging infrastructure, and recruitment challenges pose real concerns. Yet the U.S. maintains technological edges in areas like stealth technology, cyber warfare capabilities, and integrated systems that adversaries struggle to match. Economically, the landscape has shifted dramatically. In 1990, the U.S. economy represented about 40% of global GDP. Today, it's closer to 25%. Meanwhile, China's economy has grown to rival America's when measured by purchasing power parity. But raw GDP numbers don't tell the whole story. The U.S. dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency, accounting for nearly 60% of global foreign exchange reserves. This gives America enormous financial leverage. When the U.S. imposes sanctions, they carry weight because they can effectively cut countries off from the global financial system. However, challenges are emerging. China has been actively promoting its currency internationally and creating alternative payment systems. Countries are increasingly conducting bilateral trade in their own currencies, bypassing the dollar. The BRICS nations have discussed creating alternative financial architectures. American debt levels have reached historic highs, raising questions about long-term fiscal sustainability. Yet the U.S. economy remains remarkably innovative, with Silicon Valley, Wall Street, and American corporations continuing to shape global commerce. The U.S. stock market represents over 40% of global market capitalization. Technology might be where the competition is fiercest. The United States has long been the world's innovation hub, home to the companies that defined the internet age: Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. But the race is on. China has made massive investments in artificial intelligence, quantum computing, 5G networks, and green technology. Chinese companies like Huawei, Alibaba, and Tencent are global players. In some areas, particularly manufacturing and implementation of technologies like high-speed rail and renewable energy infrastructure, China has surged ahead. Yet America retains crucial advantages. U.S. universities attract the world's best talent. The ecosystem of venture capital, research institutions, and entrepreneurial culture remains unmatched. America still produces more Nobel Prize winners and holds more patents in cutting-edge fields. The recent push for domestic semiconductor manufacturing and the CHIPS Act show American awareness of technological vulnerabilities. The question is whether America can maintain its edge in artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies that will define the 21st century economy. Soft power is perhaps where American influence has seen the most visible shifts. Hollywood, American music, and brands like Coca-Cola once spread American culture and values almost universally. Democratic ideals championed by the U.S. inspired movements worldwide. Recent years have complicated this picture. Political polarization, social divisions, and controversial foreign policy decisions have tarnished America's image in many parts of the world. The chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, domestic political turmoil, and inconsistent stances on international agreements have raised questions about American reliability as a global leader. China has actively worked to expand its soft power through initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, establishing Confucius Institutes, and increasing its media presence globally. Other powers, like the EU, have emphasized different models of governance and social organization. However, people worldwide still look to America in many ways. Students globally dream of studying at American universities. Immigrants still seek the American dream. When disasters strike, countries often look first to American aid and leadership. American ideals of freedom and opportunity, even when imperfectly realized at home, continue to resonate. So, is the USA losing its superpower status? The answer is both yes and no. What we're witnessing isn't so much an American decline as it is a global rebalancing. The immediate post-Cold War era, when America stood as the sole superpower, was historically unusual. We're moving towards a more multipolar world where power is distributed among several major players. America remains the world's preeminent power across most metrics. It has the strongest military, the largest economy by nominal GDP, leads in many cutting-edge technologies, and maintains extensive global alliances through NATO and partnerships in Asia. No single country can match America's comprehensive global power projection capabilities. However, American dominance is no longer unquestioned. China poses a genuine peer competitor in economic and increasingly military terms. The European Union, while not a superpower in traditional terms, wields enormous economic influence. Regional powers like India, Russia, and potentially others are asserting themselves in ways that weren't possible decades ago. The real shift is from hegemony to competition. America now must actively work to maintain its position rather than assuming it as a given. The 21st century won't look like the 20th. American superpower status isn't disappearing, but it's evolving. America remains extraordinarily powerful, but it operates in a world where other nations have more capability and agency than they've had in generations. Perhaps the better question isn't whether America is losing superpower status, but whether the concept of a single superpower still makes sense in our interconnected, multipolar world. Power is becoming more diffuse, more specialized, and more contested. The 20th century may be over, but that doesn't necessarily mean American decline. It simply means we're entering an era where leadership must be earned continuously, where alliances matter more than dominance, and where multiple powers shape the global order. The future remains unwritten, and America's role in it will depend on choices made today. Thank you for watching.